Hey art historians! This is my final weekly summary video coming to you summarizing up what we just accomplished in week 7, the second to last week of our course. So first and foremost, we had 2 quizzes this week. We had quiz 13 and 14 in the midst of many other different assignments that you all completed, and then we had a really awesome discussion. So as per usual, I'm going to cover some of those multiple choice questions that might have tripped some people up a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about some really amazing highlights in our class discussion, and then I have some really important reminders for you relevant to week 8. So let's start first with quiz number 13. And one of the questions I wanted to talk about first was how the light is emphasizing Matthew's moment of calling in The Calling of St. Matthew by Caravaggio. Now, while you might have been tempted to choose the answer that indicated a spotlight, you have to keep in mind that part of Caravaggio's approach was to put the everyday and divine in the same situation. And usually we don't have spotlights in everyday, but we do have natural light from a window. Keep in mind too that this natural light is something that Baroque artists are really employing quite often in their compositions. And if it was a spotlight, we would probably see something along the effects of very direct and isolated light with very clear outline between lightness and darkness. And that's not the case in this scene. We are seeing an open window off to the side and that light streaming in. So that's why that answer would have been correct. Moving right along, Bernini's Pluto and Proserpina, asking what technique conveyed the dramatic movement and emotion. And I think we got a little mixed up between those C words, those long, complicated Italian C words. Some of you chose chiaroscuro, which is definitely something that those Baroque artists are utilizing, but unfortunately, that's in 2D work. When we are thinking about 3D work, like what Bernini creates, contrapposto is the word that we want to look, or that twisting of bodies. Just the fact that somebody is twisting simply adds that element of dynamism and movement, and so that is why that answer would have been correct there. Now, quiz number 14, I wanted to quickly give you a little insight into sometimes we have great answers and sometimes we have the best answers. And as an AP Art History teacher at the high school level, I absolutely see this all the time. It's probably one of the most frustrating approaches to a multiple choice question, but it's the nature of the game, so there's really nothing we can do about it. But in regards to Bektir's Jahangir preferring a Sufi sheikh to kings, many of you had chosen the European Renaissance being the cultural influence. But while that is the case, we're really thinking about the pieces as a whole here. And so that's why the Persian miniatures would have been just a better answer. They're both defendably good, but there is a best of the two. It's definitely not a Chinese landscape and definitely not African tribal, and so that's why we would have chosen Persian miniatures as our correct response. All right, let's talk about our discussion a little bit. I wanted to bring up a few pieces that you all had mentioned quite often, the first of which is Judith slaying Holofernes, Artemisia Gentileschi's version. I'm so glad you all love this one, and I really love the comments that I saw in our discussion about this. Cole, you really emphasized the drama, and I could not agree more. I think this piece is such an interesting approach from a feminine perspective to a scene that had previously only been created from the male perspective. And Carson, you also mentioned the bright colors in this as well, and they're so vivid and in your face, and the drama and the bright colors make it hard to look away from this piece, which I feel like is what Gentileschi was trying to capture. Previously, in a version by Caravaggio, we did see Judith kind of looking a little icky and sort of sawing away at that head there and not really loving the experience, but in Gentileschi's version, she is like sleeves rolled up, going for it, and I don't know about you all, but I love that energy brought to this piece. It's exactly what it needed. So really awesome discussion on that, folks. I wanted to bring up Maddie G. You had talked about Las Meninas, and I love that you used that word gobsmacked. I think I wrote that in response to your post as well, but I really feel like there is such an interesting scene that's happening here. The movement, the fact that we're getting a little behind the scenes look at a courtly arrangement of figures is just really, really special, and that piece in general is one of the ones that has always kind of captivated me. I absolutely love how when you look at it really closely, we saw these painterly effects. You can see the mark of the brush of the artist. But when you take that step back and walk away, it looks like realist, natural detail. And that is just like mind-blowing. I mean, come on. It's so cool. I can't believe how amazing that piece is and how even to this day I still have that same reaction. Last but not least, let's talk about the Calling of St. Matthew a little bit more. Our boy Caravaggio, he's such an interesting character. If you all have Spotify, check out the series by him on Art Holes. It just dives straight into every aspect of Caravaggio's life and his personality, and he was a kook, and it's so intriguing, and it makes his artwork even cooler knowing the life he lived in between the creation of those works and how the works came about to be created to begin with. It's just captivating. Kim, you had written that you felt it was this like basement kind of feel for the scene, and I love that reference. I always think of it sort of like a bar or a tavern. For example, I live in Mahwah, New Jersey, and we have a Mahwah Bar and Grill, and I think about maybe walking into that back room where, you know, the servers and the chefs and everybody gets to lounge around, and you open the door and you see that scene, right? The door to the alleys may be open, and maybe, you know, you've got like cars driving by, but that's kind of what I always imagine. And I love that you gave this scene in this moment that 2024 real world rootedness, and makes it even more relevant as an artwork to you. So awesome job there. And then, Dion, you wrote perfectly, this is a divine intervention in everyday life. And I think that is one of the most special aspects of Baroque art, is bringing it to our level. You know, previously in Christian art, we saw these beautiful images of Mary and Jesus and gold and majesty and high above our heads. And now we're coming to a place where everybody can relate to the scene. You don't need to be wealthy, royalty, you know, in the upper echelons of the hierarchy of society. It is for everyone. And that relatability is something that I find the most special about art history in general. Whenever we're able to bring it to our world, it makes it relevant, it makes it interesting, and it makes it something that you're going to remember. And so Caravaggio's ability to do that is just absolutely impressive, and one of my favorite aspects of his style and the Baroque era in general. All right, so that wraps up week 7. Now, one thing that's really important, folks, and I'm going to put this in the announcement as the announcement title, all of your work for week 8 is not due on Sunday. It is due on Friday. My grades are due on Monday, so I will be spending that whole weekend getting all of that stuff inputted. It needs to be turned in on Friday, any outstanding work and any current week 8 work. So if you're seeing this video now, go get started, so that way you don't run out of time, because you don't have this weekend to finish up anything. There's no extensions, there's no different reasons, there's no extra time, no, none of that. It has to be turned in on Friday. That's the rule, that's Lindenwood's policy, and I have no choice but to follow it. So please, folks, don't forget, get started now, so that way you're not rushing at the end of the day on Friday. 11:59, I'll be looking for that work. I also do not want to spend my weekend hounding people for different work that they're missing. If it's in, I'll grade it. If it's not, it's not getting graded. So I hope you understand. Oh, here's my little Dolly cat. Wanted to say hello. Oh, there she goes. Anyway, a couple other things. So for week 8, you have some assignments that you can be working on that'll just continue to add points to your grade. As you know, we're in a point accumulation kind of situation. There she goes. So you have notes 27, your self-guided explorations 15.03, quiz 15, exam number 2, and week 8 discussion, and that last writing assignment if you choose to complete it. So all of that work, if you're choosing to do it, needs to be turned in by Friday, folks. I know I've said that a lot, but it's really, really important, and I don't want that due date to slip through the cracks. Now, last and but not least, I want to thank you all really briefly, and I'll probably get sappier when I make a little wrap-up course video on Friday, but I really quick do want to just thank you all so much for all your hard work you've done this semester. This is my first semester as a professor here at Lindenwood, and the only reason I became one is because my experience going through the Art History Master's program at Lindenwood was one of the it's one of the best educational experiences I've ever had, and I just want to contribute to that in any way I can. So I appreciate your patience this semester as I kind of figure out my footing. I appreciate your help with the technology and helping me, determine what links are working and which ones aren't. And just having that grace for me, and as I continue to refine and improve my own education skills. As you know, and I may have said this, I am a lifelong learner. I'm nowhere near perfect, and I know I can improve. for every year that I continue to teach, either, at the high school or college level. So don't forget to fill out those course evaluation surveys. That feedback is only going to help me grow and better serve my future students. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that, especially those grade calculation worksheets this week. Also, great job on that. And folks, in general, I know art history is a very demanding subject, and I know how much time it takes to do the work for art history, but I do really hope you feel it was a very rewarding experience, that you're leaving this course with more knowledge, and I encourage you to take even more art history classes here at Lindenwood, because they're all amazing. And if I have you in class again in the future, I look forward to it. But for now, I'll sign off, and I'll send out a video on Friday just summarizing our amazing art history journey together. So until then, bye everybody.